The Attorney General cross-examines. As soon as the court opened after the weekend on Monday, 2nd May 1966, the Attorney General, Sir Elwyn Jones, Q.C., rose to examine Brady. For most of the questioning, Brady seemed unconcerned, even detached. He looked straight ahead, leaning forward slightly with his hand still clutching the rails of the witness box. He answered most of the questions with a clear, almost offhand no, particularly the ones when Sir Elwyn accused him of killing Leslie Downey and John Kilbride. He was in the box for one whole day and part of the next morning. He had no alibis, no witnesses, nothing but himself with a long string of unconvincing denials to most of the accusations. He never called the Attorney General or any of the other Q.C.'s "Sir," nor addressed the judge once as "my lord." This was obviously part of his superiority complex, inextricably mixed up with a grudge against society. As Sir Elwyn flung question after question at him, like a hail of stones, he kept outwardly calm, but his Lancashire accent began to fade a little, and his native Scots brogue became more and more noticeable. Occasionally he turned his head from side to side, like an animal at bay. Then his long, thin-nosed, triangular features resembled a fox's mask. Once or twice he glanced fleetingly at Myra Hindley, sitting alone in the dock, but she did not return his gaze, as she had her head down most of the time and seemed to be busily writing notes. As the cross-examination became longer and tougher, Brady clutched the witness box rails more tightly, almost as though he would break them. He hunched forward and appeared shrunken, as though the weight of the questions was physically battering him. Mostly, however, he told his story without hesitation. It was nearly an hour before he made his first slip in what was obviously a well-rehearsed defense. Why should it not be? After all, he had had more than 6 months to perfect it. Sir Elwyn Jones asked him how he managed to lure Edward Evans all the way to his home in Hattersley, which was nearly an hour's drive away. Sir Elwyn, was there any arrangement made as to how Evans was to get back to Ardwick? There was some talk. What was the talk? About dropping him back in the car. But you were going to rob him? Yes. And take him back to the car? No. What was he to do? Walk 10 miles back to Ardwick, having been robbed by you? Yes. Make no complaint to anyone on the way? That is what we considered. It is not true, is it, what you are saying? Yes. You never intended Evans to leave that living room alive? Yes. At the end of this exchange, Brady realized he had made a mistake and became hesitant for the first time. Yet he could so easily have recovered by saying something like, "Of course I told him that plan, but I did not intend to put it into operation. I just took him to my house to rob him. I would have turned him out afterwards and let him find his own way home." An answer like that might have got him out of the attorney's trap. But he was allowed no time to recover. Sir Elwyn was still pelting him with quick questions. He continued, "And what is more, you had a grave on the moors in mind for him. Is that right?" "That is right, after discussions." "Before the discussions?" "No." "Before the murder?" "No." "You were not murdering all the time. I am not suggesting that. I am suggesting you were a cool, calculating murderer that night." "No." Apart from these rapid exchanges, Brady, with his mud-colored, expressionless face, looked for most of the time like a talking puppet. Only occasionally did a glimmer of any feeling or emotion peep through. The first came surprisingly. He kept saying in answer to questions, "My train of thought is this. My train of thought was." Then, in answer to one question, asking him to recollect something about the night of the murder, he said, "My train of thought is different now." Swiftly Sir Elwyn asked, "What is your train of thought now?" Brady answered, as if half to himself, My train of thought now is that I'll be convicted anyway." Then he gave a faint sigh. Later he revealed another unexpected display of emotion when the Attorney General asked him to take another look at the picture of Evans' battered, blood-stained corpse taken by the police after his body was found in Myra's bedroom. Brady hesitated and said, "I don't like to look at it." "I don't suppose you do," snapped Sir Elwyn, insisting that he took it. Brady held the photograph limply in his hands until the attorney ordered him, "Look at that picture, if you can bring yourself to do it." Never once did the prosecutor raise his voice, and neither did Brady. Their verbal duel was conducted in rapid, politely phrased questions on one side, and denials in a monotone on the other. But gradually, as the cross-examination continued for hour after hour, the court began to gain a clear picture of the type of creature Brady really was. His choice of words gave him away, particularly when he was dealing with some of the more ghoulish aspects of his murders. For instance, when he was asked his feelings when he heard Leslie Downey's screams coming from the tape recorder in the courtroom, he replied, "Embarrassing." Embarrassing. The word rang around the courtroom like an eerie echo. This callous, careless understatement. It was embarrassing, concerning the pitiful screams he had tape recorded of the little murdered girl, revealed him for the reptile he was. He made an equally painful impression on the court when he said he had put into the suitcases he left at the station every offbeat out of the house. "Offbeat?" inquired Sir Elwyn. "Is that how you describe the tape recordings?" "Yes." "Photographs of the naked Leslie Ann Downey offbeat?" "Yes." The court gained another glimpse of the workings of his upside-down, black-as-white mind when the attorney asked him, "When Leslie Downey, who was last seen in your house, was reported missing, why did you not go to the police and try to help to find her?" "After all," commented Sir Elwyn, "the whole community was worried about the safety of their children." Brady looked at him blankly, obviously unable to grasp what he meant. "I wouldn't know," he said slowly in a puzzled voice. "Why should people be worried about a missing girl? What did she matter? After all, she was not like a lost dog. That was much more important." His reaction to the murder of Edward Evans was equally revealing. Sir Elwyn asked him why he had not told the truth in his statement to the police that Evans had been brought to his house because he planned to roll a queer. Brady replied with unexpected coyness, "I didn't want the sordid details to come into it." "Sordid!" exclaimed the Attorney General. "But is there anything more sordid than murder?" Brady hesitated. You could almost see what was going on in his mind. Murder sordid? Didn't people understand what exquisite sadistic pleasure it was? Eventually, realizing he had to make some sort of reply, he said slowly, "It just depends the way you think." It took 3 or 4 questions more before he agreed. Yes, indeed, murder was sordid, and then his answer was obviously made with reluctance. He made few admissions and fewer mistakes, but his constant reiteration of the word "no," often when he was excited, pronounced in the Scottish way "noo," made a poor impression upon the court. He never said "I don't know," when denying any question, but always the more indifferent "I wouldn't know." He was so obviously lying, with not a single witness to support his statements. Even his girlfriend Myra could not help him in any way. She was too deeply involved herself. Brady, like many solitary people who read a lot, sometimes used long words to explain himself. At one time, when a statement he had made was questioned, he replied, "I'm not interested in the phraseology." When he was asked why one of the obscene pictures of Leslie showed her in an attitude of prayer, he replied, "I had no devious intention." When asked about some of his post-murder plans, he replied, "They were in case I was apprehended, or to prevent myself being apprehended." Not arrested, but the authentic police word. On the other hand, the Attorney General several times used the phrase to describe the association of Brady and his girlfriend Myra by saying they were in cahoots. This curious Americanism, almost as old-fashioned as the cat's pajamas, rang strangely on the lips of the senior law officer of the Crown. Yet there were moments of grisly horror. One of the worst was when the attorney, holding the tomahawk-like axe which killed Edward Evans in his hand, went into the details of his murder. The Attorney General: "This boy was a helpless target for you, wasn't he?" "No." "The right side of his skull was smashed to pieces, and some of his brains were on the floor." "Yes. In fact, Smith made a joke about it. He said he was a brainy swine, wasn't he?" "He had a sense of humor, did he?" "Yes." "Did you laugh?" Brady made no reply. When he was describing the killing of Evans, he said, "I hit him to stop the noise. The noise, the noise." He kept repeating this in every sentence, as if he could still hear Evans' dying screams in his ears. Another glimpse of Brady's cunning mind came when he was asked about an alibi he was trying to invent for the Evans murder. He said he was going to visit his parents the next night. "But would not people know that you were not there on the night of the murder?" asked Sir Elwyn. Brady confidently replied, "If something crops up 14 days afterwards, people will not remember what day it was." He talked dispassionately about his plans for the disposal of Evans' body, as if he was reading a business agenda. It was so obvious that Sir Elwyn Jones quickly seized upon the point. In answer to one question concerning his disposal plan, Brady replied, "That had not been agreed." "Unfinished business, was it?" commented Sir Elwyn dryly. At the beginning of his cross-examination, Brady at once admitted that he hit Edward Evans with the blunt side of an axe, but he added that David Smith had also hit him with a stick before he died. Sir Elwyn asked him, "Am I to understand from your evidence that you admit killing Edward Evans?" Brady: "Yes." "And that you are not suggesting that Smith either caused his death or contributed to it?" "Smith took part in it. I am not suggesting anything regarding him." When Sir Elwyn again went over the circumstances of Evans' death, Brady snapped back at him, "I have told you what happened. It is up to you." Sir Elwyn pressed him, "But you admit it was you who killed Evans." "I admit I hit Evans with the axe." "Are you suggesting that it did not kill him?" "No, but somebody else has." "Who?" "The pathologist." "What is the pathologist suggesting?" "The pathologist said it was accelerated by strangulation." "The question of the pathologist put by your counsel was to the effect that Evans was dead or dying when the ligature was applied?" "Yes." Brady added, "I hit Evans with the axe. If he died from those blows, I killed him." The Attorney General then said, "Let me ask you to consider what you did to Edward Evans." At Sir Elwyn's request, Brady was handed the photograph of the battered corpse of Evans. He said, "That is the photograph of the man who you have said in your evidence that you were proposing to take out of the house as if he were a drunk. That battered, bleeding head was the person you were planning to take out as a drunk." Brady: "There were other suggestions. One was to put a coat over his head. Are you really suggesting that? Yes. You were planning to give Evans the same burial on the moors. No, I was worried about getting him out of the house. The Attorney General then asked Brady to look at other photographs of the dead boy. He said, "Do you see the deep, long 5-inch wound in the head?" "Yes." "How many blows do you say you struck?" "I don't know. I know from what the doctors have said." "There were 14 blows, weren't there?" "I know from what the doctors have said." "Would you like me to take you over the wounds on the photographs?" "No." "You don't deny you inflicted each and every one, do you?" "Not if they were caused by the hatchet." "Each one of these blows was caused by you wielding this axe, weren't they?" As he said this, the Attorney General held up the light tomahawk axe with its heavily blood-stained head for Brady to see. Brady: "I wouldn't know." Asked how many blows had missed, Brady said one had missed because it chipped the wall. He did not know if any others had missed. The Attorney General: "Most of the blows were struck while you had hold of Evans with one hand and wielded the axe with the other." Brady: "Yes, at some stage." "This boy was a helpless target, wasn't he?" "I suppose so." "Every blow you struck was with maximum force, wasn't it?" "No." "No." "Just 2. After that, it wasn't so hard." "It was a cold, calculated killing, wasn't it?" "No." When Sir Elwyn held up more photographs of Evan's dead body, Brady hesitated and averted his eyes. The Attorney General leant forward slightly and demanded sharply, "You struck a cowardly blow, didn't you, when that boy was unaware of what was happening?" Visibly wearying and with a slight sigh, Brady replied in a noticeable Scottish brogue, "No." Counsel again held up the axe and suggested, "He struggled for his life, but never got on his feet again." Brady: "He was on his feet again." When Brady insisted that when he hit Evans with the axe, all he was trying to do was to stop the noise because Evans kept shouting, Sir Elwyn paused and then said, "You heard the tape recording of the voice of Leslie Ann Downey in court. Would you describe the initial noise of that little child as a shout or a scream?" Brady answered, "A shout and then a scream." At this point the judge interposed to ask him, "Have I got this right? All that worried you was the noise?" Brady replied, "Yes, but I was hitting him to stop the noise. All I could hear then was the noise." The Attorney General: "You wielded that axe like a butcher cutting up meat. You have had some practice at that." "I only did it to stop the noise." That is Smith's description. "Had you not been a butcher's assistant at one stage in your career?" "Yes." "You realized he could never survive the assault?" "All I realized was the noise." Then he again revealed his bloodlust by adding, "As the blood appeared, it got out of control. I just kept hitting. There was no realization." "What were your feelings when you were striking him on the head with an axe? What were your emotions?" "I did not have any." "Certainly no emotions of pity." "I can't remember what my emotions were." When Sir Elwyn said, "You gave no indication of pity or compassion towards Evans," Brady again replied, "The only thing in my mind during the assault was the noise." "You were surprised at the number of blows required to kill Evans?" "Yes." "You were so surprised that you handed the axe to Smith and said, 'Feel that. How could he take it?'" "I can't say why Smith said that, The police must have found his fingerprints on the axe, and he had to say something to account for their being there. Are you suggesting that there was a conspiracy between the police and Smith? Yes, I am suggesting that they could have asked him an ambiguous question or given him an idea. They could have suggested to him how his fingerprints got on the axe. But there is no evidence of Smith's fingerprints on the axe, is there? I don't know. Smith was telling the truth? No. It rings true, doesn't it? No. In answer to further questions, Brady admitted that he expected the first blow would be enough to drop Evans. You were boasting about your killing after the murder. No. After this exercise of murder, you were boasting and reveling in it. No. You were speaking of other triumphs in the field of murder. No. You said this is the messiest yet, didn't you? I told him it was a messy job with reference to cleaning up the blood off the floor. Brady still insisted that his only object in hitting Evans was to silence him. But when Sir Elwyn said he could have silenced Evans in a few seconds by gagging him the same as Downey, Brady agreed. Sir Elwyn, you were good at that, weren't you? No. Brady was then asked about a statement he made to the police on the day of Evans' death. He agreed it was a voluntary statement, and he was cautioned both at the house and in the police station. The curious mind being Brady, with his clerkly obsession with unimportant pettifogging detail, was revealed when he queried 2 points in this statement. They were the use of Evans' Christian name, Eddie, and the fact that the statement said that they had been drinking. Brady said quite indignantly, I never used anyone's Christian name. He also insisted that although he offered Evans a drink in the car, he refused. Evans did not have a drink in his presence. These 2 tiny points seemed quite important to him, but he readily agreed he picked up Evans because he recognized him as a homosexual. He had seen him in a club frequented by homosexuals where he had been about 3 times. He may have made such an issue of this because he seemed to have an irrational disgust for homosexuals. He could murder them, but did not want anyone to think he was even friendly with them. Sir Elwyn, and what were you doing in that haunt of homosexuals? To watch the antics, that's all. So you attended the club because you liked watching the antics of the homosexuals. I have been in a lot of clubs in Manchester. This was only one of them. You picked Evans up and deliberately took him back to Wardlebrook Avenue so that you and Smith, or Smith alone, could rob him. Yes. He was a very strange choice, if that was the real purpose, wasn't he? I don't know. He looked older than he was. His face was covered with acne. You knew him? Yes. Did you not have the faintest idea that this boy had nothing worth stealing? No, I was not going on appearances. Young people walk about in rags and have £20 or £30 on them. You were now being a willing accomplice with Smith to enable him to roll a queer. Yes. Roll a penniless queer? I thought he would have money. Did homosexual activity take place between you and Evans in the living room before he was killed? Brady replied, quite prudishly, almost shocked. No, Myra was in the room. Sir Elwyn then turned to medical evidence, saying, Evans' trousers were down, his fly was undone. On his underpants and his flesh were dog hairs. How do you account for them? I wouldn't know. As I sat in court, suddenly the picture of that scene in the pink-walled council house living room became eerily clear to me. The unattractive homosexual Evans, his face speckled with acne, who could not easily find willing cooperative friends, thought he had found one in Brady, as Brady intended he should. He must have lowered his trousers willingly, even eagerly, expecting what Brady rather primly kept describing as sexual activity. But as he turned his bare behind to Brady, instead of the much sought-after forbidden pleasure, he received a skull-smashing blow on the back of his head. On the back of the head. The attorney was pursuing the same line of thought. He asked, why did Evans expect some sort of sexual activity when he was invited to your house? Brady replied, it's hard to explain. He said he wanted a drink. What did he do to make you think he was a homosexual? His manner. What did you say to encourage him to think that his own tastes might be satisfied? I just went along with his ideas. I did not say anything. You induced this boy to think that he was among friends and people of a similar inclination. That was why he had gone to your home. Yes. You took him there deliberately to murder him. No. Holding up a copy of a book by the Marquis de Sade, Sir Elwyn said to Brady, you don't go for the views of the Marquis de Sade on murder, do you? Brady, I have read de Sade. That is Smith's book. You have read it and enjoyed it? Yes. And approved of it? Some of it. The bits about murder? No. The Attorney General then quoted aloud from a passage in the book. Murder is a horror, but a horror often necessary. Never criminal, but essential to tolerate in a republic. Do you agree with that? Brady, no. I suggest to you that is what you are trying to indoctrinate into Smith with these ideas. No. This was the diet that you had, wasn't it? Pornographic books, violence and murder? No. The Attorney General then asked Brady to study a list of books found in a luggage locker at Manchester Central Station and at his home in 16 Wardlebrook Avenue. Sir Elwyn said he did not propose to read out the names on the lists, but the judge handling the list read out one name, Sexual Anomalies and Perversion. As Brady looked at the lists, the Attorney General said to him, they are all squalid, pornographic books. Brady, they can all be bought at any bookshelf. They can all be bought at any bookstall. That may be, but they are pornographic. They can't be if they can be bought at any bookstall. They are dirty books. It depends on the dirty mind. This was the atmosphere of your mind, a sink of pornography. No. Brady added, some of them were written by doctors. Was your interest on a high medical plane? No. Erotic reasons, answered Brady frankly. Sir Elwyn, of course they were. Then Brady added something which gave an unexpected glimpse of his rather envious, class-conscious outlook. There are better collections than that in Lords' Manors all over the country, he said truculently. But you didn't have a bad collection, did you, for a humble collector? Asked Sir Elwyn. It was a very poor collection.